In today's meta, casters are pretty interesting. They deal a good amount of damage, can bring great utility, but also require some sort of survivability, whether that's in their kit or in the decks you build for them. I want to showcase how I build my caster decks because it's really quite interesting. There's lots of options, but they are damage dealers. So trying to get damage while getting good value with some utility that they need, plus some survivability, very interesting. Wanted to showcase this to you guys, so hopefully you learn a thing or two. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Paragon Guide. I am Sylphin. We're going to use Morigesh here because she's very meta. She's probably the most meta caster at the moment, next to probably Lieutenant Bellica, followed up by probably Howitzer, something like that. Morigesh, very meta right now. Thought I could use her as an option to showcase kind of what I do with my casters. We're using the Epic Games deck builder just because very, very easy to equip cards. You can see the total CP in your deck. Because I start with the end game deck, we just go to 60 total CP, figure that out, throw in our options, go to the early game, fill that out with all of our options, go into the mid game, and kind of work backwards. The end, the beginning, then the middle. That's kind of what I do. Now, for the end game deck for casters, I tend to start with kind of the mandatory cards, slash the ones that are really effective on the caster that I'm building the deck with. A lot of casters synergize really well with with one or two or multiple really effective cards, and Morigesh is one of them. Tainted Magic on Morigesh is phenomenal. Her dot procs this like nobody's business. She can really reliably do apply Tainted Magic and just makes her damage potential absolutely ridiculous. So Tainted Magic, absolutely phenomenal. Another card that works really well with Morigesh is Ash of the Witch. Not only does she apply a micro slow on her hive, but Ash of the Witch will proc it again. So it's not only a micro slow, it's now a full on slow. That happens like every 2 seconds. Ridiculous here for Ash of the Witch on Morigesh. Another card on here that is really actually quite that is really quite prevalent on casters, and especially in the higher elos, is some sort of Blink Charm. Usually it's a Teleblink. On Morigesh, she can't get it, so Stab Blink works really well for her because she can get mana health regen from her Swarm ability. So Stab Blink really effective, so she can blink around, get out of bad positioning, or kind of blink forward to secure kills, stuff like that. Stab Blink, very effective. Another great card on Morigesh because of her constant damage over time, applying a debuff to really meta heroes right now. Phase, quenching scales, and all, and carries lifesteal. Thick Blood, absolutely very effective to apply that blight on targets. Absolutely very effective. Now, another card that is very common nowadays is Stasis Gem. Mitigate ultimates, mitigate Revenant's Obliterate. Just really, Stasis Gem has really come to the forefront in a lot of deck builds. So Stasis Gem, we're gonna throw this in. You're just kind of going around, seeing what would work really well theoretically or just in your experience. Now, we do need a ward, but on casters, we have to think of something else as well. At this point, I kind of go, well, we have 5 cards already. We need power because we're damage dealers. We also need some sort of health because casters, it is very meta and it is very effective to put at least some health on your caster. At least some. Carries can get away with none because they have lifesteal. Next, you have your assassins that may get a CP or two, and maybe just a little bit, but then they usually have some kind of sustain with maybe a little bit of lifesteal, something like that. Then come the casters that get a fair amount, 3 to 6 CP, like something like that, worth of health for some sustain. And then there's your tanks, obviously, your fighters that get more, and then your tanks that are very, very heavy focus there. So at this point, I'm trying to thinking, we need some health. There's no health option here in this. Hopefully Stasis Gem and Stab Link can make up for the fact we don't have any health. So in the damage department, you need that ability penetration, and I think there is a card here that's going to work really well, and that's going to be our Sorcerer's Ward. We need a ward, get some ability pen. Yeah, the lifesteal, not very effective, but hey, I guess it can help. So Sorcerer's Ward here, great as a last pick here to finish off our deck. Now this is a lot of utility. Damage, but there's some utility here on the Stab Link, on the Ash of the Witch. Stab Link here for the utility, Stasis Gem for utility and survivability, Thick Blood for utility, and then the Sorcerer's Ward obviously has the ward part of it, which is utility as well. Now, Thick Blood, I want to maybe change your perspective on Thick Blood. You are reducing the healing done by the enemy team. That should be thought of as damage. If you let them go unabated with their healing, you have to deal damage to get through that health, right? Thick Blood reduces that, meaning you don't have to deal as much damage, which is basically damage. You can think of Thick Blood as damage. Really, you have to think about it, especially on carries that are going to get a lot, especially melee carries. They get a lot back from their lifesteal. Thick Blood, think of it as damage, because it's basically what it is. Now at this point, we need to fill the rest of the deck here. 30 total CP. We need 30 more. And you know what? It's just damage. At this point, we have to think of the ones that we're absolutely going to get. We're pretty much absolutely going to get Thick Blood. We're absolutely going to get Sorcerer's Ward. However, this has our ability penetration on it, so I don't want to put power on here because we have to see how much power we get so that we know how much ability pen to get. So the absolute must-haves on Morigesh, absolutely Tainted Magic. We're going to fill this with major casts. Next, Ash of the Witch is really, really strong on Morigesh, so I'm going to put all of these major casts on our Ash of the Witch. Another one here, Thick Blood, you're probably going to get it a lot in today's meta, so you know what? We can fill this as well. At this point, we are going to take a look at how much power exactly we have right now. And it should be maybe quite a bit as we go here and all of this. So 210 power. That is a lot. That is a ton, especially considering Tainted Magic can be considered damage, Thick Blood can be considered damage, and Morigesh just has a high damage kit anyways. So at this point, we definitely need 30 ability pen. What we're going to do is, we have 2 already, 8, 16, 24, and 26 on the Sorcerer's Ward, so unfortunately we can't get 30. Now we have 69 total CP, meaning we can get rid of 3 here on the Thick Blood, and now we have to see exactly how much power that is. Is this much pen worth it? Or is there enough power to worth this penetration? Yes, there is. I would like to see 160 minimum, 180 even of power before that much penetration, but I think, to be honest with you, that is okay. I honestly think that should be okay. If I was really picky, I might go like this. Sorcerer's Ward. You know what? No, that's fine. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. There we go. So now we have our core cards, and I'm kind of thinking at this point, we need some options. What if you don't need this Thick Blood? What if you don't need this Stasis Gem? What are some other cards that might be some good options? So with some more thinking, we have kind of tweaked this for some options. In the mid game and up, you're going to have options between the Stasis Gem and Stab Link. You can have both of them, you get what you need. The really good cards. When it comes to that final last bit of CP, you can choose which to keep. You don't necessarily need both. You could keep your stab link instead of your stasis gem if you kind of don't need the stasis gem, you're not getting focused, or you could keep the stasis gem and get rid of the stab link because Necrovale, it's a pretty good card. Morigesh here in the late game is going to be dealing a ton of damage, and she can really finish people off with a good mark, overextend a bit. Got to get somebody with a mark, especially with the ultimate. Necrovale, I think, can have a good effect. So that is going to be our options in the late game. You're going to grab your Necrovale and then Stasis Gem or Stab Link. You can do that. So that is what we're having here in the late game. Works very nicely. Now from here, from the late game, I go to the early game. What are my early game options that I want? Well, as Morigesh, you can either be in the mid lane, which you can get a health potion and a healer token if you're up against another Morigesh that you're maybe gonna need that health, or you can grab a mana potion if you're feeling confident in the health department, or if you're in the off lane, you can get a health potion, a healer token, and another healer token if needed. Now the early game ward is absolutely necessary, absolutely, and a Sage's ward's are gonna help with a little bit of health because she's a little bit of short-ranged of a caster, so needs a little bit of health. Now at this point, the meta kind of dictates just adamant edges. However, on Morigesh, yes, you can do a good job of getting the river buffs if you are in the mid lane, but as any casters, I really like having 2 mana potions. What I also really like is having 1 card of mana regen. Now on Morigesh, the options are limited. You can get some on the Wellspring Staff here, but you only get 1 CP power and 2 mana regen. None of the other options here have power, unfortunately, besides the Chronomancer Disc, which is too expensive for my tastes. So it's really difficult. I did try Gift of the Rains when she first came out, and it did really give us some good sustain, to be honest with you. But I think her role as an early game damage dealer and early game pressure, I think we just need to go into some damage. And you know what? That just leaves me think a Adamant Edge. Simply 2 casts here. I do want a little bit more health than what this gives me, so I'm going to go for 1 lesser health here and 2 of those. Now at this point, we have to think, what are some options? Again, we have that Teleblink, and we have we have the Stab Link, we have the Stasis Gem as options in the mid game, because at this point you're getting close to the mid game unless you're doing really well. At this point, maybe we just get another Adamant Edge. That is certainly an option here. And after some thinking, we're just getting another Adamant Edge. Gonna be nice and simple. Now at this point here, we can as a growth hero, she has some good options here. The Jungle Drink, the Hunter's Drink and the Shaman's Drink work very well after level 5, so this is an option, although the Shaman's Drink I think is something that's really effective there. You can get rid of 1 mana potion, you can keep 1 for the early game, and then get a Shaman's Drink there later on. Now we have 34 equipment slots, so we can still get another full-on card and still have some options. This really cool thing about these, a lot of these high utility but great value cards, is it cuts down on the amount of equipment slots you have. So at this point, we still can run into some options. Now on Morigesh, I have seen some Quenching Scales on Morigesh, because she has the potential to do some pretty crazy things with a mark and into a hive, and then another mark, and chase somebody down just to secure a kill. She's really good at that. I have seen Quenching Scales put on her. I have seen what is it? It's the one where you get Drink the spirits. I have seen drink the spirits on more Gesh for even crazier sustain. I don't really think we need it anymore, to be honest with you. So at this point is really tough. This is great because we have options in our deck. So after some deliberation, we went for the Quenching Scales, just so you can get that. It has mana regen on it, which is what I was kind of thinking of. You can get this for that good mana sustain for both you and your nearby allies as well. Plus give you some health, which, I mean, that can go a long way on Morgesh. Chase somebody down, do some pretty crazy things, and I think that's why she is so meta at the moment. After that, we got a cast token to throw that in there, and we got our dummy ward on our Guardian's ward, which is somewhere in here. There it is right there. So that is it. That is the deck. That is what I do. Start in the late game with on the casters. There's some really key synergizing cards for a lot of casters. You get those. Then you go on to the mobility, the Teleblink, or a Blink Charm, or a Stabling, something like that. Stabling on Countess is another really good one. Teleblink on basically any other caster, super duper effective. Then I go on to the ability pen. Where can you get that? On somebody like Bellica, it is actually kind of hard to get that ability pen. Infinity Stream's really good, but depends on if you want it. And then I go to just filling out power and seeing if there's an option for health. Then I go into the early game, get all of that options. I'll get all those options for you know, which lane you're being in, your dummy ward, your early game ward, your early game few cards, and then you go into the mid game options. Usually there's no options. Lots of casters get an anti-Morgesh card in the cast converter, something like that. And then that's kind of the process. So there you guys go. This is my process of going through for a caster. This is how I build my casters. Differs slightly from obviously from a fighter and stuff like that. So that is it. Let me know down in the comments, guys, what you guys think of maybe this deck, of maybe my method of going through, of building a deck. What do you guys suggest? Is there some sort of structure you follow, or some sort of key fundamental principles you try to follow like this? You know, let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to have other people learn from you as well. Please like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, share it with the community, and of course, guys, subscribe. If you guys like this content, especially if you found it useful, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. If you would like to support me and what I do on a regular basis, please consider going over to my Patreon account, where you can make a monthly pledge to support what I do and reap some pretty good rewards. Till next time, like always, guys, stay optimistic and positive.